So I would get the red electrical tape and put it on my leg so I could be Han Solo with the cool pants, because he had that, you know. And then the yellow one, you had to change it out. And I'd wear a little vest. I took like a t-shirt and a black shirt and cut it into a vest so I wanted to be Han Solo, you know. So, but
typically he still wears that outfit on Sundays.
That's right, I do, yeah.
Not today.
But now I didn't know that old Ben Kenobi is like, hello there. Well, I'd get to say hello there someday, so yeah.
Well, hey, let's welcome to the stage. Let's get it up. Let's get going for Eckstein, Matt Lanter, James Arnold Taylor.
Love it. We'll all share a couch. We love each other.
There you go.
Hello there.
Move over, Sky Guy.
Hey, calm down, Snips.
Right. From a galaxy far, far away. How are you guys doing?
Great. How are you doing?
I know. We saw each other at San Diego last year, I think.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Doing
This
well?
is a fun reunion.
I know it is. Did everyone arrive at Washington today? Or you guys been here for the weekend?
We've been here for
on the
a few
floor.
days
You've been
now,
on the floor. Yeah. You know, we always try to, when our guests are on stage, like if you're not from here, sometimes we ask our audience, like, is there one place that these guys have to go to before they leave? Don't shout it out because we can't hear you. So someone raise their hand and yell.
One by one, tell us where we should be going.
I see a yellow shirt, I think, white shirt, yeah.
I see Princess Leia is
Stand up and yell.
raising her hand too.
Smithsonian
Castle.
Oh.
Is that a place to eat? To visit?
What about, I'm your only hope, Princess Leia.
All right, go for it.
You're mine. What do you say?
What do you say? Air and Space
Air
Museum.
and
Of course. There you
Space
go.
Museum. Well, of course,
there.
Princess Leia would say that.
Yes, I have been there. That's nice.
Oh, they have an X-Wing.
Wow.
Gotta be there. All right, well, hey, we are here. I mean, you guys have had incredible careers, done so much, but of course we're here to sort of focus and celebrate the 15th year anniversary of Clone Wars.
Yeah.
It's you know, in some ways it's like feels like it was just yesterday, but then in other ways it feels like it's been so long. I mean, like so much has happened in 15 years in the Star Wars universe, right? And
a lot more gray in my beard.
Well, it's fitting. You know, it fits suits your character. So, as you look back on 15 years, and really when when you were starting out 15 years ago, you know, the Star Wars landscape was much different. So as you kind of look back at 15 years, what's your reflections? Like, what's your thoughts on the Clone Wars, and especially like what it's kind of meant to fandom? So, Ashley wants to kick us off?
Well, I've been a Star Wars fan ever since I could remember. I mean, I was a toddler watching A New Hope. It was on VHS. Kids don't know what that is.
Google it. You'll find it.
But
It's in the Smithsonian.
next to the X-Wing.
But so when I was cast as Ahsoka, I felt like I won the lottery. And especially getting the chance to create and originate a new character, I really felt like I won the lottery. But I also realized it was a responsibility, and a responsibility that I did not take lightly, because I know that as a Star Wars fan, it's not just like a trend. It's not something you're into and one day and then you're out of. It's a way of life. It's a way you see your life. It's a lifestyle. And so I took it very seriously. And then when I really fell in love with Ahsoka and I discovered how powerful and incredible of a character she was, I was like, oh my gosh, I just hope that one day Star Wars fans learn to love Ahsoka like I do. And now it's incredible to see so much Ahsoka love.
I think we do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Matt, how about looking back on it? What are your reflections?
I think some big takeaways are, obviously a new beloved character with, so much Ahsoka fandom and now the show. I think that also Star Wars television, there really wasn't television. We had the micro series, which I know you know all about, but really, like the Clone Wars was the first kind of television Star Wars content territory, and I think the success of the Clone Wars is really, now feeding all this amazing Star Wars television we have nowadays. And I don't know if it would have happened without the Clone Wars. Maybe,
it wouldn't.
But maybe not. Also, I think from a character standpoint for Anakin, I think it really helped develop that character. We got to see him in a heroic aspect we heard about, but we didn't. I know a lot of you that have seen me at my table, we've talked about it, but we saw Anakin as the hero that we heard he was, but we didn't really get to see it in the films. But we got to see it in the Clone Wars, and you know, you rooted for him, and makes his fall so much more tragic. So it adds to the Star Wars story as a whole.
Yeah, I think that's the coolest part is we were, you know, a long time ago in a studio far, far away. We were creating something that I think we all kind of hoped would become something special. And once those fortune cookies, as we call them, came out, and you realized parents are sitting that grew up with Star Wars watching now with their kids. And there's lessons that can be learned, so it's meaningful, but it's Star Wars on a weekly basis. We get to do what Star Trek had done all those years ago, was get, like you say, go into people's homes every weekend. And it was also when social media was brand new. So we were able to interact with all of you in a way that nobody else had ever really got to do, and I think that's what made it really special. And these two especially really knew how to take that, and because they're very young, you see. I'm the old man here. And old Ben Kenobi. But they were able to get all of us to interact in a way that I think is now something we take for granted. But it was really the first time that a show got to do that. And I give so much credit to my co-stars, not only for being tremendous actors, but really also being able to connect with all of you in a new way. And Ashley herself has just done this amazing connection with you all, from creating a clothing line that we take so much for granted now. But Ashley Eckstein is so responsible for that with her universe. And we take for granted hunky Matt Lanter for being hunky.
Yes, but okay, James is very humble, but
I'm not looking
Matt,
for anything.
I know, but Matt and I were Padawans when it comes to voiceover. I mean, this was our first big voiceover role in Clone Wars, and we got to learn how to be voice actors alongside the greats like James Arnold Taylor.
D. Bradley Baker, thank you.
D. Bradley Baker. Corey Burton and Phil Lamar,
Jim
who's also
Cummings.
here, and
Yep.
so
Yeah.
many amazing.
Absolutely.
Well, you know, it really was groundbreaking because before Clone Wars, the only Star Wars we could get were like, movies that came out every few years, and sometimes not even that. And so Clone Wars did bring it into the household, like you said, on a weekly basis, and a myriad of new. Were there any fans here that became fans of Star Wars through Clone Wars first?
Raise your hands.
Yeah. So, it introduced a lot of people to Star Wars.
That was mind-blowing for us. I remember specifically, we were recording one day, and somebody had sort of said, like, wait a second, what we're doing right now is going to be the first Star Wars that a young generation is going to see. And I think for all of us, that's pretty mind-blowing. Because at that point, it was 6 movies. That's what we had.
Yeah.
And now that generation has grown up, and they're coming to see us at our tables, and we're talking about it, and it's wild, because back then that was like
we were the first movie that didn't have run dun run dun run dun. And as a kid, when you heard that, you were like a dog, like huh, like. So they had to come up with, so Matt Wood, genius sound designer that he is, had to come up with something that would get everybody's attention, remember? And he took D. Bradley Baker's voice 1,000,000 times and overlapped it with all the clones at the beginning of the movie. And it's really awesome, because I think we knew this was a cool movie. But now, thank you all of you that come to the table and say, this was the first thing I saw, and that it means something to you, and you knew that Ahsoka was going to be an awesome character, and that we were going to get to learn more about Anakin, and that Obi-Wan would be just as charming as ever.
So we've been asking all of our guests, before we get too far into Star Wars, and of course, we've got a lot of fans who are going to ask some questions. We've been asking everyone to kind of go back to when they were younger. Star Wars, it's almost like we've had many Doctor Who guests here on stage, and for America, it's like Star Wars is like our Doctor Who, like over there, right? So everyone grew up in it. It was like deeply steeped in their culture, and so everyone has a Star Wars story when they were a kid, So for you guys, like, what's your sort of Star Wars story when you were little?
Well, for me, I grew up in Orlando, Florida, and my dad was a Disney cast member, so I grew up Disney. And I remember when Star Tours opened at Disney's MGM Studios. Yeah. And now it's Disney's Hollywood Studios. But I just remember riding the ride and loving it. And I had a plush Ewok, a little, stuffed Ewok that I carried with me everywhere because I absolutely loved it. But I think just the awe and wonder of being put into Star Wars was just very cool.
I don't have a major Star Wars story. I didn't grow up on Star Wars.
But you're the chosen one.
I don't know that I had seen, I'm sure, like bits and pieces. I don't really remember watching one of the films until I was probably like 13, maybe 14. I think I was watching Attack of the Clones just in my room, eating popcorn. And like that's, of course, pop culture. I knew the characters, but I didn't know how they
Did you
worked.
have what was your first moment of like, oh wow, like I'm actually in a Star Wars? Like what was that moment for you?
That I was actually
what
in
was
Star
that
Wars.
like?
Let's see. Well, I went to Skywalker Ranch and I walked in George's office and George goes, Anakin.
That's it. That's it right there.
I mean
that's your Star Wars story.
Yeah, that'll do it. That'll do it.
Well, so again, the old guy in the room, I watched A New Hope when I was 7 years old at a drive-in movie theater, and it changed my life. And then we would play Star Wars as a kid, so I would get the red electrical tape and put it on my leg so I could be Han Solo with the cool pants, because he had that, and then the yellow one, you had to change it out. And I'd wear a little vest. I took like a t-shirt and a black shirt and cut it into a vest so I wanted to be Han Solo, so... But,
typically, he still wears that outfit on
that's
Sundays.
Right, I do,
but
yeah.
Not today.
But now, I didn't know that old Ben Kenobi is like, hello there. Well, I'd get to say hello there someday, so yeah.
Well, actually, it's not easy to create a new character that can stand with Anakin and Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka has been so beloved and so embraced, and it's been such a symbol of
Thank you.
such a symbol of
Thank you.
hope, and it's been inspiration, and it's been so great to be able to see that beyond Clone Wars and Rebels and Forces of Destiny, and like you've been able to bring that character back in some shape and form. What has it meant to you to embody that character? Because she's so unique and different, but so important.
Well, a lot of people might not realize that I was cast as Ahsoka to just be myself. And because they didn't know what they wanted for Ahsoka. Originally, Dave Filoni thought that Ahsoka should have an Icelandic accent. And, he didn't tell anyone this, but he wanted her to sound like Bjork. And
How's your Icelandic accent?
horrible. It's absolutely horrible. And so when I went into the audition, I actually originally auditioned for Padme, and I was super bummed because I love Padme, but I sounded nothing like Padme. And so I thought I had no chance. And I almost left the audition. And then my agent was like, no, please go in because you never know what could happen. And so I went in and said the first line is Padme, and sure enough, Dave Filoni stopped me, and he was like, no, you sound nothing like Padme. But he's like, but there's this new character. She's a 14-year-old girl, and we think you might be right for her. But then they told me that they wanted her to sound Icelandic. And that's not an accent that I just like have in my pocket.
Really?
So I did my best, but it was awful. So
Let's hear it.
I still can't do it to this day.
We still have not gotten her to get that.
I know, because it's been 17 years since I did that audition. But somehow I got a call back, and they told me to practice my Icelandic. And so I did. I went to a dialect coach, and I thought I had mastered Icelandic. And then I go back in, and I say the first line in Icelandic, and Dave Filoni stops me again, and he was like, no, can you make it sound more Icelandic? And I was so frustrated, I did something I would normally never do, and I talked back to the director, and I said, I'm sorry, but I am doing Icelandic. I don't know what you want. And that got me the part.
Snips was born.
Yeah. So
That's Ahsoka right there.
it is, and I didn't realize it. And so, anyways, when I showed up on the first day of work, I was so shocked because, I couldn't do Icelandic, and they were like, no, we don't want you to do Icelandic. We just want you to be yourself. And I feel very blessed because Dave Filoni, we very much collaborated, and he did all the writing. Him and his writing staff, they created the story and what she looks like, but I had a huge say in how she sounded and her personality and her humor and her sarcasm and her wit. And all of us, they filmed our faces when we recorded, and so a lot of our expressions are on the characters. So a lot of Ahsoka's expressions are actually my own expressions. So it's really cool. In many ways, Ahsoka is me because I was asked to bring myself to Ahsoka. But now, I would say Ahsoka's grown so much, I'm more like Ahsoka because she's inspired me.
Before we go to questions, I've got to ask, what's it like working with the brilliant Dave Filoni? What's it been like? All right, let's go to questions.
Dave's pretty incredible. I mean, he's the ultimate Star Wars storyteller. I feel like I've learned so much about just storytelling in a general sense from Dave and character development. Before we would record, Dave would come into the booth with us and really just chat for a long time. I mean, sometimes it seemed like 45 minutes, an hour before we would even start recording anything. And really, it was just about to give us a direction on tone and feel of the episode and where our characters were and where we left off and where we're going. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm so excited to see what Dave does with the future of Star Wars. I think we're all in good hands as fans with Dave.
Yes.
Anyone else? Any other Filoni's thoughts?
Yeah, he would always give us these little bits and pieces of what was happening, because sometimes we would get the scripts when we walk in. Sometimes we would only get our portion of the script. And so he would keep us in suspense, but he would, okay, we're going to talk about Star Wars today. And it's really cool. This is my Dave Filoni. I'm getting him back for that because he would come in and he would do George. Remember his George impression?
He'd come in and he'd do his George Lucas impression.
So I'm doing Dave Filoni
doing George Lucas.
It's like me doing Ewan McGregor doing Alec Guinness doing Obi-Wan Kenobi.
All right. Hey, let's start off with some questions here. Let's start off over here. Go for it. Tell us your name, how many awesome cons, and give us your question.
Hi, my name is Michael, and this is my third or fourth Comic-Con. And I was just really wondering where the idea for a voiceover at the beginning of every episode came from.
Well, Tom Kane, the amazing Tom Kane, the voice of Yoda, as well as the narrator, Tom would come in and, crisis on Ryloth, and he would do this amazing, it was supposed to be like the old news, this just in, and that kind of thing. And so they wanted to create that feel, and I believe that was George Lucas's idea.
Yeah, all I remember is that it was inspired by like a newsreel. Yeah. And so, yeah, George is very much inspired by history.
And the old serials, the old comic serials that he grew up with, and those always had that, the old Flash Gordon and stuff. What will happen to Flash Gordon? And it was always that kind of dramatic thing. So I think that was really kind of...
Yeah, I think it's just keeping with the Star Wars tradition. I mean, every shot of the beginning of the films, it's stars and space, and then we pan down.
And it was a quicker way of doing that. You couldn't do a scroll on a 22-minute episode. It would be like, you'd get 5 minutes, because then the whole scroll would be telling the story. So it was a faster way of doing what he did in the movies, I think, ultimately.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Hello. Go ahead and go.
Hi.
Hello. Hello there.
Hello there.
So I'm Ariana, and this is our third Awesome Con. And we are voiceover actors, actually. Both me and my daddy, we are both professional voiceover actors. So you guys are absolute heroes for us.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
Thank you. And so I have so many questions, but I'll just say one, obviously. And my question would be, what were some of the most emotional moments for you guys, like when Ahsoka leaves Anakin, or when Anakin's turning to the dark side, or what were some of the most emotional moments to do in the booth?
Yeah, I mean that was one of them. That when Ahsoka was leaving the Order, I think it was sort of like we didn't really know what was going to happen with the show, with the characters, with seeing each other. It was just kind of all a big question mark. Those were emotional ones for me. For Anakin, the whole Mortis arc was really emotional. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the first time that I really got to kind of play with Anakin in a darker space. And there's that shot where I think he might actually be on his knees, and I've got a picture on my table, but it's the Darth Vader like helmet behind him, and you hear the breath, like in the background, and it's so powerful, just the vision of what's to come. But yeah, those were definitely some of the more meaningful, powerful moments we got to do behind the mic.
Yeah, I mean, for what Matt was saying, when at the end of season 5, we didn't know that was going to be the series finale, so we didn't know the show was going to get canceled, and I thought I was just saying goodbye to them for like a season, because I knew I was coming back at the end of season 6, so it was definitely sad, but it wasn't the goodbye that we necessarily thought it was. Even for Ahsoka, I didn't know what her future was. I had hoped that she would come back and join them. And then everything happened, and the series got canceled. And so when Ahsoka and Vader reunited again in Rebels, that was such a gift. Oh my gosh. That scene. When Ahsoka says, "I'm no Jedi." That scene was very emotional for us, because Ahsoka, in many ways, was saying goodbye to Anakin, and I was saying goodbye to Matt. Like, I never in a million years thought that Clone Wars would come back. I didn't think we would get a season 7, so I thought that was probably the last time we were ever going to record together.
Yeah, it was odd. It was odd to be in the booth with her and telling her, "Then you will die." It's like, I mean, it was. It was interesting, and it was also just a really, really cool, creative choice made by Dave and George and the powers that be to hear Anakin, but also hear Vader, and kind of like, it's just fun to talk about. Was he trying to bait Ahsoka? Because was he full Vader at that moment and kind of baiting her in? Or was there a little bit of Anakin there? And he was seeing her kind of brought out some of the Anakin. It's kind of fun to talk about, but yeah. Very cool.
I would have to say, you can kill me, but you'll never destroy me. It takes strength to resist the dark side. Only the weak embrace it. Sorry, Anakin. No.
But it's oh so fun.
No, those moments with Anna Graves and Sam Witwer and Clancy Brown, and those were fantastic in The Lawless. Those were stunning for me because I didn't know what was coming. I got the script that day, and while I was reading it is when I found out, sorry, spoiler alert, with Satine. So I did not know. So those emotions were real. And so that was probably, and then also getting to do in the Mortis arc, "You are my brother, Anakin!" Getting to do some of those classic lines was really very fun, too. So those were probably for me, that. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Ethan. It's my third con, I think. And I wanted to ask you guys a question about the last season. So there's this line when Rex and Ahsoka are escaping. I think it's Jesse. I can't remember which clone exactly. Rex is trying to convince them to let Ahsoka go, and then I think it's Jesse. He's like, "We're under direct orders from Darth Sidious," and that was weird to me because does he know now? Does he know Palpatine is a Sith? Or is it like this kind of unspoken rule I noticed in the Clone Wars where you're not supposed to show Palpatine in his alter ego? Like, you can tell if you know, but there's a bit of plausible deniability.
What do you mean, Palpatine and Sidious? I don't understand what you're talking about.
I mean, I don't know how to answer that. That's probably more a question for, Dave. I mean, it's interesting though, right? I mean, if he's saying Darth, you would think that'd be a rumor. When someone is named Darth, they're usually bad, Like,
Yeah.
That's bad, right?
yeah, that's bad. You'd think rumor would have gotten around the clone trooper barracks. But I don't know. I mean,
Well, I think
cool
the
question.
best writing creates speculation,
Right.
and it allows the fans to sort of create theories, and that's what makes it interesting. And
Yeah, very cool.
Very deep
Yeah, great
question.
question.
Yeah.
No one's ever asked us that before, but it's definitely a question for Dave Filoni.
We're like,
And I'm scared if I answer it wrong, we'll get in trouble.
You get a phone call.
I'll have emails after this.
All right, thank you. All right, go ahead.
Thank you.
Hi, I am absolutely thrilled to be surrounded by so many Clone Wars fans today, and I'm glad to be talking to you all. For the last 15 years, I have been on an absolute crusade to get everyone I know to watch this show. I am the annoying friend who's always telling what to watch, and there are some hardcore fans I know that just won't do it. They have their reasons.
They're missing out.
Well, that's usually what I say to them before I just walk away. So my question is, what would you say to a hardcore fan about how the Clone Wars would really enrich their enjoyment of Star Wars?
Well, I think the beauty of it is, for one, it was the last Star Wars that George Lucas's fingerprints were on. But it also allowed George a little freedom that he didn't have in the movies to be somewhat behind the scenes, let someone else that was brilliant, again, Dave Filoni, take over and kind of tell that story. So it combines so much. For people that love the originals and people that love the prequels, it is the perfect marriage of all of that. And I think it does it in a really true way. And we get to see, everything from Bosk to, Tarkin and all these characters, and we find out more about them. It's really a behind the scenes of what they love.
Yeah, I think that actually brings up an interesting topic of, since when Clone Wars first began to even now, there has the landscape of Star Wars has changed dramatically. Especially not only because there's movies, but then there's streaming, and then there's everything in between. And if you've noticed that as we just discovered earlier today, that the internet has opinions about things. If you've noticed that, They've got very hot opinions about things. And there's and unfortunately, and some of the discussion has turned to debate, and unfortunately some of that's turned into fighting, and some of the toxic fandom sort of thing kind of comes up. And so when you guys hear about that and hear about kind of how there's sometimes division among fandom, what's your thoughts on that? Like, what do you as someone who's in the center of it, and as you sort of hear it sometimes and sort of orbits around you, what's your reaction to how fans say things like, unfortunately they'll say, "Oh, you're not a true Star Wars fan if ... and just silly things like that." So what's your reaction to that?
I mean, my take is, I think debate is good. I think criticism is fun, like constructive criticism. I think that most people are upset with something because it comes from a place of passion, and they want it to be great. And I don't know, maybe for them it just doesn't speak to them, but it might speak to your neighbor. So everyone's got these different opinions, but I think that's fun. I think it becomes toxic when it moves into like a negative territory, or it moves into like hate against an actor or a specific writer or a specific director or something like that. But I think difference of opinion is fun. I think that's what's so fun about Star Wars.
From the lips of Anakin, no less.
Yeah.
Palpatine hasn't gotten to him yet.
There's so much we can't control. You can only control what your actions and what you do from day to day. And I've been so inspired by Ahsoka, and her true power is kindness. And in many ways, she represents the light side of the Force. And so I just do what I have the power to do, which is to be kind and treat others as I would want to be treated and listen to people if, let's say, they have a differing opinion from mine, and spread light however I can. And so I don't weigh in on any of those conversations, and I just do what I can do and be kind. So to go back to the question before about what would we say to, other Star Wars fans, to me, I think now the Clone Wars and Rebels, they're so intertwined with the rest of the storytelling. For the longest time, it was like, well, animation is its own thing, but it's not anymore. It's literally a part of the overall story, and if you don't watch the animated shows, you're really out of the loop. Yeah. Like, I feel bad for the fans, and I'm grateful when they say, I didn't know who Ahsoka was, but I went back and watched her in Clone Wars and Rebels. But if you only see Ahsoka in live action and you don't go back and watch the animated shows, you really have no idea how great this character is. And so, I definitely recommend that fans that haven't seen the show, that go back and watch it purely for their research, because otherwise they're going to be completely out of the loop.
You can always use the Jedi mind trick on them. You will watch.
Yes, go ahead.
Hello there. My name's Jake. This is my first Awesome Con.
Awesome.
Yeah. I've been watching your guys' show since I was 8 years old. Huge fan, grew up with it. The question I wanted to ask y'all today is, what were some stories that you guys wanted to tell with your characters, or that didn't get told? Or do you guys feel like the Clone Wars kind of did a pretty good job with covering everything?
I think there's always more stories to be had. Personally, I love the Tales of the Jedi format. I really like. I think that the episode with Anakin and Ahsoka and him, with kind of a tough hand teaching her how to defend herself and how to become a warrior, and it was so sort of inconsequential in the moment. But then you see how it plays in to 66 and how she carries on and how she prevails, and it's so cool. So I personally love that format. I hope we get more and more Tales of the Jedi.
Yeah, I think that, it's tricky because, we started actually 17 years ago with recording this show. And because we were always at least a season ahead. So we had recorded more than actually ended up being season 6. And I wish some of those would get seen, but we did get to see some of them in animatic form, as they call it, kind of the pre-animation form. And the scenes where Obi-Wan and Anakin are out there, by the fireside talking about Ahsoka. I would love to see those finished someday. I feel as though they could. But I also think that I'd love to see Obi-Wan and Satine and when they were younger. I'm biased.
I'm so sorry. We're not trying to be rude, but there's some bugs up here, and they're landing on us. It wouldn't have been an appropriate storyline, obviously, because they didn't exist yet. But
it's the Geonosian Queen coming to take revenge.
But obviously we got a taste of it in Book of Boba Fett, but I wanted to see Ahsoka meet Luke or Leia. I really wanted to see that happen. So we haven't seen that original meeting yet, so hopefully we get to see it.
Plo Koon and Ahsoka. I'm partial to Jedi Master Plo Koon as well. Yes.
Well, I can't conclude the panel without Ashley. You've been a huge inspiration to me. For me and my clothing company was started really as inspiration because of you and her universe. And there's probably many people representing her universe here in our crowd. And I think you're wearing an Ahsoka Tano outfit as well from her universe. There you go. Yeah. Speaking of seeing the characters kind of live on, what has it meant to be able to create clothing where the characters can live on through everyday merch and through guys and girls being able to wear all these characters? What's that
Well,
been like?
thank you. It's been amazing. As a female fan, when Clone Wars started, there was nothing for me to wear. There was Star Wars t-shirts in the men's and the boys section. And so I'm super grateful. Ahsoka inspired her universe and really to just create an equal space for everyone. Thank you. Thank you. But you know what, Tony? I know we're out of time, but the last question, there is an Ahsoka. And I would feel heartbroken if we cut off the questions on Ahsoka. I wouldn't feel right about it. So can we have one more?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Ellie, and speaking of young Obi-Wan and Satine, doing some reconstruction with the books. Corky Kryze was born in roughly 36 BBY.
Look at the time. Yes, Corky. I don't know. What do you all think? Do you think Obi-Wan and Satine? No. I'm saying no. How many think yes? All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Well, as we conclude, what's next? Like, what are you currently working on that you can share? And is there anything that we can look forward to coming up?
Yeah, so to wrap up the question from before, thank you so much. Fans can go, actually this sweatshirt isn't available yet, it's about to come out, but you can go to heruniverse.com, and it's not just clothes for female fans anymore, it's clothes for everyone. So we have a sub-brand called Our Universe, we have stuff for unisex and guys and the whole family. We have youth designs now, so go to heruniverse.com, and then I'm also a designer for Disney now, so I have some upcoming collections. Thank you. Thank you. So look for some more collections in 2024, and there might be a very special Ahsoka collection coming in early 2024, which is very cool, and it's for everyone, so I can't wait to share it.
There's always things in the pipe. I've done some work, as some of you probably know, in the DC universe as well, on the microphone, so you'll hear me more there. There's always stuff. Stay tuned.
The problem is we're on situations where it's like we can't talk about it.
These NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. Well, I just had the blessing of writing, directing, and acting in a film that I had in my head for a long time, and I'm trying to get that out there pretty soon. The trailer is out there on my YouTube and on my Instagram. It's called Hidden Blessings. It's a movie that was kind of a passion project, so I'm hoping that you all get to see that one soon. It's coming out soon.
Well, thank you so much for allowing us to experience and enjoy 15 years of the Clone Wars, and thank you to the fans. And let's thank Ashley, James, and Matt. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tony.
This is Captain Zap Brannigan. I prefer to call myself Admiral Zap Brannigan. I'd like to draw your attention to that sexy subscribe button, those curves, that triangle. Like Leela's eye. Click it. Ah, that was great. Follow fun and have fandom and yabo.